Hi there, everyone. I thought I'd do another video on another tool that I use. I've just come out of a leadership development session that I was hosting with the national leadership team, and this was one of the tools that I walked them through to help them prioritise some really challenging pieces of work that they've got coming up in a business, which is always on. They provide out of hours services, which mean that they're always on and things are always cropping up out of hours, which is really difficult from a leadership and management perspective around how to put appropriate boundaries around things and how to prioritise genuinely important versus genuinely urgent topics which arise, which may be unforeseen. So I wanted to introduce the Eisenhower Matrix if you've come across it before, and I also wanted to talk through the difference between urgent and important, because one of the biggest and I would say most common challenges that I see businesses falling foul of is where they conflate urgent with important, and what that does is it creates a false sense of urgency. And I'll explain how that kind of manifests in a moment, but I just wanted to explain the difference between urgent and important and the nuanced difference and the reason why it's so easy to get them kind of confused. And I don't say that in a sort of pejorative way. This is kind of really common topic in the context where priorities are always shifting. We're having to continually kind of look at what's the most important thing. And the difference between important and urgent, and the reason why people get the concepts confused, is because both are time bound. If important things don't get done within a certain period of time, they will have a negative impact on the business. So, for example, if a business doesn't tune into their customer experience, their customer journey, their core processes, maybe their market positioning and their market share, those things over time can erode their reputation, their market share, their profits, and potentially even have devastating consequences for the survival of the business. But the difference between important and urgent is, whilst important things need to get done within a certain period of time, urgent means it needs to get done right now, and if it doesn't, there's going to be a negative impact which happens right now or straight away or immediately. And it's the kind of immediacy of urgency which is the bit that defines urgent from important, but the fact that both are time bound is why it's so easy to conflate the two. And the problem is that if everything that's being categorized in a business is being categorized falsely as being urgent, that means the important stuff is never getting done. And as I say, over time that can be disastrous for a business. But also what happens is that if work tasks are getting miscategorized as urgent when they're not, it keeps a business in this kind of false sense of kind of firefighting, like everything must be done right now. It keeps us in a real kind of adrenaline focused way of responding, but it also means we're very, very reactive. We're only ever responding to what comes in. We're never having time to step back, take stock, plan, prioritize and reassess whether something is important that may become urgent over time if it doesn't get done, or if something genuinely is urgent, or if something is being miscategorized as urgent that's actually important and we just need to schedule it in and make sure that we get it done. And so for a high functioning business, what they will typically do is will have very few, if any, things which are urgent, because they're horizon scanning, they're looking ahead, they're being proactive in terms of what's coming in. So if something genuinely comes in that's urgent, it's a one-off, unexpected, unforeseen, out of the realms of possibility type scenario. So the ideal scenario for a high functioning business is to have very few, if any, things that sit in this quadrant, and the majority of the work to be in this quadrant here, which are things that are not urgent but that are important, that are going to carry the business forwards. And then you've got your kind of day-to-day activities. So this is about specializations and line management responsibility, so making sure you've got the right skills, executing the right tasks at appropriate levels of the organization. And then this quadrant here, which again is another one that really trips people up, is where as humans we're very, very good at this. We're very good at creating unnecessary work. We're very good at creating new actions that are nice to haves, that might well be nice to have in a perfect world with infinite time and infinite resources, but in reality in a business we only ever have finite time and finite resources. And so we're continually having to make judgments, value-based decisions, and apply the concept of discernment to work out whether or not we're applying the appropriate resource for the appropriate level of that task, depending on how important it is. So if we're finding that we're spending lots of time doing these kinds of activities, then we also have a problem, because we're creating kind of work that isn't really going to carry the business forward. So something to be aware of. So I hope that helps. This is such a common challenge that I see businesses struggle with all the time. So